I refused his coat because warmth had a price I couldn't afford. I chose the cold so my son wouldn't learn to bow. The wheel locked in the ice and the cart pitched downhill as Eleanor Whitlock shoved through the storm, breath tearing white from her lungs. Snow erased the town's edges and left only judgment. A mountain man stepped from a porch and held out his coat. She said no. The boy coughed. Windows watched. He laid the coat on a woodpile and walked away, prints cutting deep, never turning back. That refusal followed them. It fixed a stove without asking. It brought kindling at dawn. It stood outside the door when rumors came inside. And when winter tried to collect, papers pressed wrong, offers paid in silence. Someone rode into the storm with a doctor and left again without crossing the threshold. By spring, the town would call it mercy. Eleanor would call it work done in daylight. And the coat would hang by the door, heavier than it looked, because the seam at the collar was mended with thread she did not own. If this stirred you, stay to the end. Subscribe for more Western love, and tell me the city you're watching from. The wheel froze where the street pitched downhill, iron rim biting into ice and refusing to turn. Eleanor leaned her shoulder into the cart and pushed anyway, breath tearing out of her chest in white bursts. Snow stung her eyes. The load creaked, flour, kindling, a folded quilt, and above it all Noah shivered, small hands tucked beneath the worn wool she'd wrapped twice around him. "Are you cold, Mama?" he asked, soft as steam. She did not answer. She dug her fingers into the spokes and wrenched. The wheel groaned, slipped, then caught again. The cart lurched forward a foot. That was enough to keep moving. Enough was how she lived now. The street lay quiet as a chapel after dusk. Doors shuttered. Smoke thinned to gray threads above roofs already bending under 3 days of snow. Eleanor kept her eyes down and her steps even. She had learned that looking up invited comment. Looking down let a woman pass. Across from the smithy, a man stood beneath an awning, coat heavy with frost, rifle sling dark against his shoulder. He watched without moving. His beard held snow like seed caught in bark. When the cart drew level, the boy coughed. Small, sharp, a sound that cut. The man stepped off the boards. He closed the distance in a few long strides and stopped beside the cart. He did not reach for it. He did not touch the child. He unfastened his coat and held it out. "You'll freeze, he said. "Take this." Eleanor straightened. The wind worried the loose ends of her scarf. She met his eyes and did not look away. "I don't need pity." The man hesitated. It lasted only a breath. He opened his mouth to speak. Then the boy slid down from the cart, boots crunching. "Mama," Noah said, tugging her sleeve. He looked up at her, cheeks flushed, lips blue at the edge. "Please, if you get sick, I won't know what to do." Windows watched. Eleanor felt them. Pride and fear pulled in opposite directions until something inside her went taut. She said nothing. The man said nothing. He turned, laid the coat across a woodpile, and walked away. His prints cut deep and clean into the snow. He did not look back. She did. That night the cabin filled with smoke before it warmed. Eleanor struck a match, coaxed the fire, then smothered it again when the flue rattled and pushed the fumes back into the room. Noah coughed and curled closer. She cracked the door a finger's width to let the smoke slip out and the cold slip in. The wind took what it wanted. I am so tired. She sat on the low stool and watched the stove like it might change its mind. The kettle stayed cold. The boards creaked. Outside, the dark pressed close. She wrapped Noah in her own coat and pulled the quilt tight. When he slept, she counted his breaths. When he stirred, she sang a hymn under her breath. Only the first line, the one about a child laid in hay. Christmas came whether a body was ready or not. Morning found the stove repaired. Eleanor stood in the doorway, hands numb, eyes narrowing. The pipe was new, mortar still damp, bricks sealed careful as if the work mattered. Beside it lay kindling, chopped thin and tied with twine. Not a hurried job, not charity tossed in the dark. Someone had taken time. She stepped outside. Heavy prints led away toward the trees, half filled by fresh snow. Noah padded up behind her and pointed. Mama, someone fixed it. She knelt and pressed her palm to the lowest brick. Warm. Her fingers curled into a fist. No one does something for nothing, she said. She meant it for herself. They worked through the morning. Eleanor mended a tear, split the wood finer, set the kettle when the stove held steady. At noon, she sent Noah to the door with a cup of water and watched him swallow without coughing. That was the pull that kept her upright. That, and the thought that if she owed anyone, she would pay. By afternoon, the hill path shone slick. Eleanor loaded the cart again. Before she set off, she found a coil of rope knotted neat to the axle. New rope, not hers. She stood there a moment, then hid it beneath the sack. Help was a thing that traveled if you let it. The boy tugged her hand. Mama, I have something. He held up a carrot, clean and bright, saved from the last of the town's mercy. Eleanor closed her eyes. When she opened them, she nodded once. One. They climbed. The cabin above the timber line sat plain against the white. Smoke rose steady. The man was stacking wood when he saw them. He stopped. He watched as if the world had slowed around them, and he was the only thing still. Inside, the fire spoke low. Eleanor set the basket down. Noah climbed onto the bench without being told. The man poured water into 3 mismatched mugs. No one hurried. The soup steamed. Spoons moved. Silence did not bite. Noah talked. He always did, once he knew he was safe. He spoke of his father's whistle, of stars seen from a lifted shoulder, of promises made before a winter that never seemed to end. Eleanor held her mug and did not look at the man. She watched her son. Then Noah coughed. Once, twice. He grabbed at his throat, eyes wide. Eleanor was up, reaching. The man was there first. He knelt, wrapped his arms just so and pressed. Once, again, a third time. The bread flew. Noah drew air and cried. Eleanor gathered him, shaking. The man stepped back. He did not claim the moment. He did not stay close. Later, when Noah slept with his head heavy against her side, Eleanor spoke into the quiet. I haven't been that afraid since my husband died. The man's eyes dropped. I lost my brother, he said, in a storm. He did not add more. He did not need to. When they left, the sun had thinned the clouds to gray. At the threshold, Eleanor paused. Thank you, she said, and meant it the way a person means a promise. Down in town, the talk started by supper. It slid from the general store to the chapel steps, from the bar to the boarding house. A woman alone, a man alone, winter making room for stories. By nightfall, the words had teeth. Eleanor heard them the next day when she went for flour. She heard them again at the seamstress's table when the needle paused and did not resume. She said nothing. She kept her back straight and her hands busy. Noah walked close, eyes fixed on her boots. That evening, the wind rose. Snow came in sheets. Noah burned with fever before midnight. Eleanor wrapped him in every quilt they owned and fed the fire until the room filled with smoke again. She cracked the door and prayed without kneeling. The road was gone. The town was gone. She sat and held his hand. I can't lose him. Hooves cut the dark. She ran to the window and wiped the glass with her sleeve. A horse broke from the white, steam rolling off its flanks. The man dismounted hard and helped another down, a leather satchel hugged to his chest. The doctor worked fast. Water, powder, cloth. Hours slid by. Near dawn, Noah stirred. Mama, he whispered. Then, clearer, was that him? She nodded. He smiled and slept. Eleanor pulled on her boots and ran into the storm. She called the man's name until the wind stole it. A shape paused between the trees and turned. Don't go, she said, the words torn from her. Not yet. He stopped. Snow closed the space between them. He waited. Come back, she said. Just come back. The storm eased, as storms do. Somewhere, a bell marked the hour before Christmas morning. He stepped toward her. Then tell me, he said, quiet and plain. What do you need? The wind did not stop all at once. It loosened its grip, then tested again, as if deciding whether to leave. Eleanor stood with snow crusting her hair and said nothing. The man waited. Waiting was something he understood. I need my son to live, she said at last. And I need his name kept clean. He nodded once. Then I'll stand where it helps. They did not shake hands. They did not agree on anything that could be written. He walked back with her through the thinning snow, carrying nothing but the promise he had not spoken. At the cabin, he stopped at the threshold. He always did. She noticed. She did not comment. Inside, the doctor packed his satchel and gave instructions in a voice worn smooth by winter. Water often. Fire steady. If the fever climbed, send for him. The man listened from the doorway. Eleanor listened from the table. Noah slept. Breath easier now. A small sound that meant the world was still in order. When the doctor left, the man placed a bundle on the step. Blankets, dried wood, a tin of medicine. He did not cross the sill. Eleanor met him there and blocked the door with her body, not as a wall, but as a line. He understood and stepped back. I'll return in the morning, he said, if that's all right. She nodded. He turned into the gray. The wind took his tracks and softened them. By noon, the storm had spent itself. The sky thinned. Eleanor moved the cabin back into a shape that made sense. Fire, kettle, bed. Noah woke thirsty and smiled at her as if he had never been afraid. She pressed her forehead to his and breathed. Outside, the town gathered its courage. People stepped from doorways and counted the damage. They counted other things, too. By the time Eleanor hitched the cart, the looks had weight. She pulled anyway. At the store, the The clerk measured flour with care that was almost kindness. A woman near the door leaned in and whispered to no one in particular. Eleanor paid and did not look up. Noah held her hand and said nothing. When they turned back toward the street, a man in a dark coat blocked their way. "Taxes," he said. He wore gloves that did not fit work. His smile did not reach his eyes. "Past due." Eleanor asked to see the paper. He handed it over like a favor. She read. The signature was right. The seal was wrong. The wax sat a hair's breadth off-center, as if pressed in a hurry. "I'll work it," she said, "as agreed." "Not this time," he said. "Winter's expensive." Noah squeezed her fingers. Eleanor folded the paper and handed it back. "I'll bring proof," she said. "Tomorrow." The man shrugged. "Tomorrow's a long way off." That night, Eleanor found the small scrap tucked where her husband kept his Bible. The same seal, the same wrongness. She laid the two side by side on the table and stared until the room blurred. When she looked up, Noah watched her with eyes too old. "They lied," he said. She closed the book. "We'll answer with the truth." Morning brought the man back up the hill. He stopped at the rope line Eleanor had strung for laundry and waited. She came out with the kettle and poured him water. He drank and set the cup down on the step, still outside. "They're pressing," she said. "I know." She showed him the papers. He studied the seals as if they were tracks in snow. "Someone rushed this," he said. "Someone hoping no one would look." "I will," she said. He nodded. "I'll walk with you, not beside you." They went down together with space between them that spoke louder than hands. In town, the eyes followed. The man kept his hat low. Eleanor kept her shoulders square. At the chapel, the sheriff stood by the stove, hands out for warmth. Eleanor laid the papers on the table. The doctor came when she was sent for and leaned close, squinting. He said nothing at first. Then he said, "This seal is wrong." The room shifted. The man in the gloves laughed too fast. He reached for the papers. The sheriff stopped him with a palm. Voices rose. Eleanor stayed quiet. When the man lunged, the mountain man stepped forward. Not with fists, not with steel, but with his body between Eleanor and the shove. He did not strike. He did not threaten. He simply stood. "Enough," the sheriff said. They set a hearing for the afternoon. Winter does not wait, but neither does truth when it finds a table. Outside, Noah tugged the man's coat. "You smell like pine," he said. The man knelt to his level. "It's where I live." "Will you come back?" Noah asked. The man looked to Eleanor. She did not nod. She did not shake her head. "If I'm asked," he said. The hearing filled the chapel. The man in the gloves spoke of law and cost. Eleanor spoke of work done and paid. The doctor spoke of seals and haste. The mountain man spoke once. "I helped because a child was cold," he said. "I left because it mattered." Silence held. Then the sheriff made a decision. Papers were set aside. Time was granted. The gloves came off and did not go back on. By dusk, the bell rang for evening prayer. Eleanor lit the lamp early. She set 3 plates on the table and paused, then left them there. Noah carried bread and hummed off key. The door knocked, soft and steady. She opened it without fear. He stepped inside this time, just to the edge of the light. He took off his hat. Snow slid from his shoulders and melted into the floorboards. He waited. "Sit," she said. He did. They ate slowly. Noah told a story about a pony he'd seen in a dream. The man listened like it mattered. Eleanor poured tea. When she handed him the cup, their fingers brushed. She did not pull away. After, she went to the chest and lifted the coat he had left on the woodpile weeks before. She had never worn it. She crossed the room and laid it over his shoulders. "That day," she said, "I refused it." He looked up, still as a fence post. She smoothed the collar once. "Today," she said, "I'd like to keep it." He reached for her hand and stopped an inch short, waiting. "Stay," she said, "not as charity, as work, as family." He nodded. "I can do that." Outside, the night settled gentle. Somewhere, a hymn drifted thin through the cold air. Christmas was close enough to smell the pine. The lamp burned steady. The door stayed open. And when the fire shifted, Eleanor did not move to block the threshold. Morning came thin and pale, the kind that made a person count what was left before counting what was new. Eleanor rose before the fire settled, stirred the coals, and set water to warm. Noah slept with one hand curled in the blanket, breath steady. She stood a moment and watched him, then turned away. Watching too long made choices heavier. The man was already outside, splitting wood. Each strike was measured. No hurry, no show. Chips fell and stayed where they landed. When Eleanor stepped onto the porch, he paused and rested the axe head on the stump. "Morning," he said. She nodded. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," he said, and went back to work. She poured water into 3 cups and set them on the step. He took one when she handed it to him and drank. Steam rose and disappeared. Winter kept its distance but did not leave. By mid-morning, the town remembered them. A wagon creaked up the hill with 2 men aboard and 1 woman tucked tight between sacks. They stopped short of the rope line and waited. Eleanor met them halfway. Noah stood behind her, fingers threaded through her skirt. "We're here to see how you're managing," the woman said, eyes already counting the wood, the stovepipe, the new shingles laid neat and true. "We're managing," Eleanor said. The woman smiled. "The sheriff asked us to look in." Eleanor looked past her to the men. One shifted his weight. The other stared at the axe. "If there's a problem," Eleanor said, "it can be said out loud." The woman glanced at the man by the stump. "It's been noticed you've had help." "I've worked," Eleanor said. "I keep a record." She held up the little leather book. The woman did not take it. She did not need to. The idea of a record made some people nervous. Mercy preferred to arrive without witnesses. "We don't want trouble," the woman said. "People talk." "People talk," Eleanor said, and said nothing more. The wagon left with the same creak it arrived, its ruts filling with snow. The man wiped the axe and set it by the door. He did not ask what was said. He did not need to. Noah tugged his sleeve. "They were counting," he whispered. "I know," the man said. "Counting is easier than helping. I learned that young. They went down together after dinner. Not close enough. Eleanor carried the book. Noah carried nothing and felt important for it. The street opened to them like a held breath. At the store, a sack slid across the counter without a word. Eleanor weighed it with her hand and paid exact. A woman at the far shelf turned her back. Another nodded once and kept her eyes on the bolts of cloth. The man stood by the door and did not touch anything. Outside the chapel, the bell rang noon. The doctor waited by the steps with his hat off. "How's the boy?" he asked. "Better," Eleanor said. He smiled and spoke to Noah as if he were grown. "You did your part." Noah nodded, solemn. "I stayed still." "That's the hardest part," the doctor said. They found the sheriff by the stove again. Papers lay stacked, edges aligned. Eleanor placed the book on top. "I'm asking for time," she said, "and I'm showing you how I'll earn it." The sheriff flipped pages, reading lines of work done and work promised. His jaw tightened and eased. "You're not asking for mercy," he said. "No," Eleanor said. "I'm asking for room." He closed the book. "I can give room," he said. "I can't stop mouths." "I can," Eleanor said, "by living clean." The man shifted. "I won't be in town," he said. "I'll work where I don't make noise." The sheriff looked at him. "That's not always safer." "It's honest," the man said. The sheriff nodded. "Then do it honest." They left with nothing signed and something understood. Outside, the sky lifted. The wind found a new way around the buildings. On the path home, Noah slipped. The man caught him by the elbow without thinking. He set the boy back on his feet and let go at once. "Thank you," Eleanor said. He tipped his head. "Any time." At the cabin, they worked without speaking. Eleanor mended. The man fixed a hinge that had always screamed. Noah sorted nails by size and felt like a foreman. The stove held. The kettle sang. The day found a shape. Near dusk, the man brought a plank and laid it across the sill. "For the draft," he said. Eleanor watched him measure twice and cut once. She held the board when he asked, and stepped back when he finished. The line between help and claim stayed where she put it. When the light thinned, she set the table again. 3 plates. This time she did not hesitate. The man washed his hands at the basin and sat where she pointed. Noah told the story of the store and the bell and how the doctor smiled like a secret. The man listened like he was learning a language. After, Eleanor brought out the book. She set it between them. "If we're doing this," she said, "we write it." The man looked at the blank page. "I don't read much." "I do," she said. "I'll read it to you." He nodded. "Then I'll sign." She wrote plain words, work exchanged for shelter, wages kept in the book, boundaries named, no debt without consent. She read it aloud. He listened. He signed with a hand that did not shake. That night, voices climbed the hill. They came as a group, not a mob. Lanterns bobbed. Faces arranged themselves into concern. The woman from the wagon stood front and center. "We're worried," she said. Eleanor opened the door and stepped out. She did not invite them in. The man stayed inside. Noah stood behind her, chin lifted. "We saw the light," the woman said. "We heard you had company." Eleanor held up the book. "I have work," she said, "and a record." A man cleared his throat. "It's not fitting." "For who?" Eleanor asked. "For a widow," he said. "For a child," Eleanor said, and stepped aside so they could see Noah's face, clear-eyed and steady. Silence moved through the group like a tide. The woman glanced at the book again. She did not reach for it. "The town doesn't like to be surprised," she said. "Then look," Eleanor said. "Don't guess." The man inside came to the doorway and stopped. He did not cross. He did not speak. A lantern guttered. Someone shifted their feet. The woman nodded once. "We'll be watching," she said, and meant it as a warning and a promise. "Watch," Eleanor said. "I won't hide." They went down the hill, their light stitching and unstitching the dark. Inside, Eleanor closed the door and leaned against it. The man waited. Noah climbed onto the bench and swung his legs. "They were scared," Noah said. "Of what?" the man asked. "Of being wrong," Noah said. The man smiled, small. Eleanor breathed. Later, when the fire burned low, the man rose. "I'll sleep in the shed," he said. "No," Eleanor said, and surprised herself. She measured the room and the words. "There's a chair by the stove." He hesitated. She met his eyes and held. He nodded and took the chair. He did not lie down. "I am choosing this." The night held. The stove ticked. Noah slept. Snow whispered against the boards. Outside, the town settled into its names for things. Near dawn, the man spoke into the dark. "They'll try again." "I know," Eleanor said. "What do you want me to do?" She thought of the book, the bell, the coat folded careful at the foot of the bed. She thought of a child who counted breaths and a winter that did not care. "Stay," she said, "and stand where it costs." He nodded, once. The fire shifted. The door did not open. The sound came first, before light or thought. A knock measured wrong, too careful for weather. Eleanor sat up at once. Noah breathed steady. The man was already on his feet. Chair scraped back just enough to whisper. "Don't," she said, and he stopped. She crossed the room and opened the door to a slice. Snow stood shoulder high against the boards. Two figures waited where the path broke, hats pulled low, boots set wide as if balance mattered. One held a paper folded crisp. The other held nothing and watched the window. "Morning," the one with the paper said. "We're here to collect." "On what?" Eleanor said. "And whose word?" The paper came forward. The seal shone dull in the gray, pressed hard and off. Eleanor read without letting her eyes lift. The words said levy. The words said overdue. The words said now. "I asked for time," she said. "You were given time," he said. It ran out. Behind her, Noah stirred. Eleanor closed the door to a hand's width. "You'll speak to me," she said. "Not to my child." The man with nothing smiled thin. "We'll speak to whoever answers." The door opened wider. The mountain man stepped into the gap and stopped with his boots just inside the light. He did not raise his hands. He did not block the way. He simply existed where space had been. "There's a process," he said. The paper rustled. "There's winter," the man answered. "Winter doesn't wait." The knock echoed again, this time from inside Eleanor's chest. She thought of the book. She thought of the seal that never quite sat right. She thought of a bell that rang noon and meant nothing to the cold. "I'll go down," she said. "Today." The man with nothing shrugged. "We'll walk you." "You won't," the mountain man said, and there was no threat in it. only fact. They measured him. Snow shifted. A boot slid. The man with the paper folded it once more and tucked it away. "By sundown," he said, "or we return." They left tracks that cut and then blurred. Eleanor closed the door and leaned against it. Noah stood by the table, eyes wide. "Are they taking our house?" he asked. "No," she said, because truth sometimes arrived early and stayed late. "Not today." She packed light. The book went in first. The scrap with the wrong seal slid between pages. She wrapped Noah in the scarf and pulled on her coat. The mountain man lifted his hat. "I'll be behind," he said. "Where I belong." She nodded. "That's where it helps." The path down had softened, mud slick beneath the snow. Eleanor kept her steps short. Noah walked between her and the ditch, the way he'd learned. At the edge of town, the looks began again, longer this time, sharper. A woman pressed her lips together. A man spat and turned away. Someone made the sign of the cross without knowing why. Inside the store, the man with the paper waited. He smiled as if this were a meeting long scheduled. Eleanor set the book on the counter. "I'm here to show you," she said. "Not to beg." He waved a hand. "Show it to the sheriff." "I will," she said, "after you show me yours." He laughed. "That's not how it works." She opened the book anyway. Lines of work, lines of pay, wood split, floors scrubbed, stitches counted, hours named. The clerk leaned closer. The mountain man stood by the door and counted breaths. "You've done work," the man said. "That's not the same as settling." "It is when it's honest," Eleanor said, "and recorded." He leaned in and tapped the wrong seal with a finger it smelled of ink. "This says otherwise." "Then let the sheriff read it," she said. At the chapel, the stove was lit and the bell quiet. The sheriff took the papers and frowned. He turned the scrap, then the levy, then the scrap again. "Who pressed this seal?" he asked. The man with the paper answered too quickly. "It's mine." The doctor stepped closer. "It's not," he said, and pointed to the edge. "That press was rushed." The room breathed together. Eleanor stood still and let the air move. The mountain man spoke once. "If you want payment," he said, "name the work." The sheriff raised a hand. "Enough." The man with the paper stiffened. "You can't." "I can," the sheriff said. "I am." By noon, a decision lay on the table like a loaf cut clean. Time granted. Collection stayed. The paper with the wrong seal folded and set aside. Outside, the sun lifted its chin. Eleanor did not smile. She walked back with Noah and the mountain man where he kept his distance, the way they had agreed. Halfway up, the path gave way. The cart slid. Eleanor grabbed. The rope burned her palm. The mountain man reached and pulled, steady as a fence post. The cart righted. Noah laughed once, startled by the relief. "Thank you," Eleanor said. "Any time," he said, and let go. At the cabin, she cleaned the rope burn and wrapped it. He split wood until the pile stood higher than it had any right to. Noah sorted nails again, proud of the work that did not show. Near dusk, the wagon came. It did not stop at the rope line. It did not stop at all. The horses pressed close, nostrils flaring. The man with nothing jumped down first. He did not smile this time. "By sundown," he said. "It's not sundown," Eleanor said. He shoved past her and grabbed the book from the table. The mountain man moved without thinking and stopped an inch from him. "Put it back," he said. The shove came quick and ugly. The chair tipped. Noah shouted. Eleanor stepped between them and took the blow on her shoulder. It hurt enough to steal breath. It hurt enough to focus it. "Out," she said, and her voice held. The man laughed, wild now. He raised his fist again. The mountain man did not strike. He caught the wrist, turned it, and took the Mwati to the floor with a sound like a door closing. He did not linger. He did not punish. He held until the fight drained away. I hate this. Lanterns bloomed outside like a rash. Voices rose. Someone ran for the sheriff. The man with the paper backed away, hands up. "This isn't finished," he said. "It is for tonight," Eleanor said. The wagon left in a hurry that looked like fear. The door stayed open long enough to let the cold speak its piece. Then it closed. Eleanor sat and shook. Noah climbed into her lap and pressed his face to her neck. The mountain man stood by the window and watched the hill. "Did I do wrong?" Noah asked. "No," Eleanor said. "You stayed where you were." She bandaged her shoulder. He washed his hands. They worked without speaking until the room found itself again. When the bell rang evening prayer, Eleanor lit the lamp and set the table. 3 plates. This time her hand did not pause. The mountain man sat when she nodded. He ate as if food were a task to be done well. After, Eleanor opened the book and wrote what had happened. Not the shove, not the fear, only the fact of the visit and the answer given. She closed it and held it a moment. "They'll come back," she said. "Yes," he said. "What do you want to do?" He looked at the door, the window, the stove that held. "What you say?" She thought of the wrong seal, the rope burn, the chair tipped and set right. She thought of a child who counted breaths and learned where to stand. "I want to end this," she said. "In daylight." He nodded. "Then I'll stand where it costs." Outside, the wind tested the boards again and moved on. Somewhere below, a bell rang a different hour. Eleanor watched the flame steady itself. "Will you go to the sheriff with me?" she asked, "and ask for a hearing before they can touch us again?" He met her eyes. "Name the day." "Tomorrow," she said. He smiled, small. "Then tomorrow." The door did not open. The night did. Morning did not arrive all at once. It crept, pale and careful, testing the frost along the sill before showing its face. Eleanor was awake when the first light reached the floorboards. She moved quiet, set the kettle, wrapped bread in cloth. Noah sat up on the bed without being called, eyes clear, fever gone as if it had been a story told badly and finished. "You said daylight," he reminded her. "I did." The mountain man stood at the window and watched the path. He wore his coat open, the way a person does when he intends to work, not be seen. When Eleanor stepped onto the porch, he tipped his head. "Sheriff will be there," he said. "So will others." "I know." She tied her scarf and did not look back at the cabin. Looking back made leaving harder. Noah took her hand. The man followed where the path narrowed, far enough behind that no one could say what he was to them. The town gathered because it always did. Trouble was a bell that rang without being rung. By the time they reached the chapel, lanterns still burned low from the night before. Smoke clung to coats, and voices pressed against one another like cattle at a gate. The sheriff stood near the stove, hat in his hands. The doctor waited to one side, arms folded, eyes sharp. The man with the paper was there, gloves on again, jaw set. A few men stood with him, not close, not far, measuring. Eleanor stepped to the table and set her book down. She opened it and let the pages show themselves. "I asked for a hearing," she said. "Here I am." The sheriff nodded. "Say your piece." She did not rush. She named the work done. She named the hours. She named the payment agreed and paid. She held up the scrap with the wrong seal and laid it beside the levy. She did not raise her voice. "I am not asking to be spared," she said. "I am asking to be judged on what is true." The man with the paper laughed once. It cracked wrong. "Truth costs," he said. "Winter costs." "So does lying," the doctor said, and pointed to the seal again. "That press was rushed. Anyone can see it." Murmurs moved the room. The sheriff lifted a hand. "Quiet." The mountain man stood where the wall met the door and did not speak. He did not need to. His presence counted the space. The man with the paper took a step forward. "You can't let this go," he said to the sheriff. "If you do, everyone will think—" "I don't care what they think," the sheriff said. "I care what holds." He picked up the book and read another page. He read the handwriting twice, slow. Then he closed it. "I'll grant time," he said, "and protection. No collections without my word." The man with the paper opened his mouth. "Enough," the sheriff said. Outside, the bell rang noon. It sounded like a promise kept by accident. They left together into a street that did not know what to do with them. Some faces turned away. Others watched, curious now instead of cruel. Noah walked tall. Eleanor felt the weight in her chest ease by a notch and no more. Halfway up the hill, the mountain man closed the distance by a step. "They'll test this," he said. "I know." "Tonight," he said. She nodded. "We'll be ready." They worked until the light thinned. The man fixed the latch that had never sat right. Eleanor packed the book away in a tin and slid it beneath the floorboard she trusted most. Noah fetched water and counted steps like it mattered. At dusk, the snow changed its mind. It fell wet and heavy, the kind that made sound when it landed. The man went to the shed and returned with a lantern. He set it by the door and waited. The knock came just as the first star found its place. It was not careful this time. Eleanor opened the door before the second knock could land. The man with nothing stood there again, face flushed, breath sharp. Behind him, the man with the paper stayed on the path. "We warned you," the one in front said. "You were heard," Eleanor said. "You were answered." He stepped forward. The mountain man stepped into the light, not blocking, just present. "This is interference," the man said. "This is home," Eleanor said. The shove came quick. Noah cried out. Eleanor felt the floor tilt and caught the table. The mountain man caught the man's wrist and turned it, clean and final. The sound that followed was small and final, too. The sound of a decision ending. Lanterns appeared again, faster now. Someone shouted for the sheriff. The man with the paper backed away, palms out. "Stand down," the sheriff's voice carried from the path. He had come up fast, breath fogging, coat unbuttoned. He took in the scene and did not blink. "Hands away," he said. The mountain man released the wrist and stepped back. The man on the floor groaned and rolled, clutching himself. "I said protection," the sheriff said. "You pushed." The man with the paper pointed. "They're hiding behind him." Eleanor lifted the lantern and let its light show the room. Table set, book absent, child standing steady. "We're standing in the open," she said. The sheriff nodded once. "That's enough for tonight. Leave." They left in pieces, anger broken into smaller shapes. The hills swallowed the light. Inside, Eleanor sat hard and laughed once, surprised by the sound. Noah climbed into her lap and pressed his ear to her chest. "It's loud," he said. "That's my heart," she said. "It's still working." "I didn't think it would." The mountain man leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. When he opened them, he looked older and younger at once. "I'll go," he said. "They won't stop while I'm here." "No," Eleanor said. The word landed firm. She set the lantern down and faced him. "If you go, they win by waiting." He searched her face and found the place she did not move. He nodded. "Then I stay." They ate bread and drank tea and listened to the snow make its choices. When Noah slept, Eleanor lifted the coat from the chest and folded it again, careful. Near midnight, a sound came from below that was not a knock. It was a call, thin and wrong. Eleanor rose and took the lantern. The mountain man took his hat. On the path, a horse stood riderless, steam rising. Beyond it, a figure lay in the snow, small and still. The doctor's voice carried from the dark. "He's bleeding," he said. "I need hands." They worked until the blood stopped, and the man breathed right again. It was one of the ones who had come with the paper, younger than the rest, eyes wide with pain and something else. "Why help?" he whispered. The mountain man tightened the bandage. "Because it's cold." They got him onto the horse and sent him down with the doctor. The night closed. Back at the cabin, Eleanor set the lantern down and leaned against the door. The mountain man waited. "They'll talk," she said. "Yes. They'll call it mercy." He shook his head. "They'll call it whatever keeps them warm." She watched the flame steady itself. Christmas was close enough now to hear the bell without counting. "What if they try to take him?" she said, and did not have to name Noah. The mountain man answered without pause. "They won't." "How do you know?" He looked at the book beneath the floorboard, the latch that held, the child asleep in the next room. "Because tomorrow," he said, "we ask the sheriff to put it in writing." She met his eyes. The question that had waited all winter stepped forward at last. "And if he won't?" He did not look away. "Then we take it to the county." The fire shifted. The door held. Eleanor nodded. "Tomorrow," she said. The road to the county did not look like much. It narrowed where the trees leaned in and widened where the creek had bitten at the bank. Eleanor set the pace and kept it. Noah walked between her and the ditch again, counting steps under his breath. The mountain man followed where the snow was less broken, leaving fewer prints. They reached town before the bell. Smoke rose. Doors opened. Winter had learned their names. At the sheriff's office, the stove ticked and popped. The sheriff read the paper Eleanor brought and did not rush. He read it twice, once for the words and once for the spaces between them. He rubbed a thumb along the margin where the seal should have been right. "I'll put it down," he said. "Plain." "That's all I'm asking," Eleanor said. The mountain man stood by the wall and watched the window. Noah sat on the bench and swung his feet. By noon, the ink dried. The sheriff handed the paper back. "No collections without notice," he said. "No entry without cause. If there's a complaint, it comes to me." The mountain man tipped his head. Eleanor folded the paper and placed it in the book. She closed it and held it for a count of 3. Outside, the street waited. They did not get far before the voices found them. Not sharp this time. Curious. Measuring. A woman from the store fell into step beside Eleanor. "Hard winter," she said. "Yes," Eleanor said. "You've been busy," the woman said. "I work," Eleanor said. The woman nodded and let the words stand. She did not offer bread. She did not take offense. That was something. Halfway up the hill, Noah stumbled. The mountain man caught him and set him right. He let go at once. "Thank you," Noah said, solemn. "You're welcome," the mountain man said, and meant the smallness of it. At the cabin, Eleanor put the paper beneath the floorboard and slid the tin back in place. She set water to boil and cut bread thick. The mountain man split wood until the pile stood higher than the windowsill. Snow fell and stopped and fell again. By dusk, the hill wore lanterns like a string of small moons. They came in ones and twos at first, then more, the way a crowd pretends it is not a crowd. Eleanor opened the door and stood aside. She did not invite. She did not block. "We brought soup," someone said, holding out a pot like an offering. Eleanor looked at the lid. "Thank you," she said. "Leave it on the step." The pot stayed. The hands retreated. Another person set down bread. Another, a bundle of rags cut clean. No one crossed the threshold. The mountain man stayed inside and kept his hands busy with a hinge that did not need fixing. When the last lantern turned back, Eleanor carried the pot in and set it on the stove. She did not serve it. She let it warm the room. "They're trying," Noah said. "Yes," Eleanor said, "and so are we." The night passed without a knock. Eleanor slept light and woke often. Each time the fire held, morning brought the man with the paper again, but not to the hill. He waited below, by the fork where the path chose. The sheriff's words had weight, but weight did not always mean rest. Eleanor saw him from the window and closed the book. She stepped out with the mountain man a pace behind and Noah between them. "You're early," she said. He smiled thin. "County's a long ride." "It is," she said. "We'll go." The mountain man lifted his hat. "I'll take the pack," he said. They went down together and did not hurry. At the fork, the man with the paper fell in beside them. "You don't have to make trouble," he said. "I'm not," Eleanor said. "I'm naming it." The road to the county courthouse cut through a stand of pine and opened to a yard packed hard by boots. The building sat square and tired, like it had seen this before and would again. Inside, the clerk took the book and read. He frowned at the seal and then did not. He set the book aside and reached for another ledger. "Sit," he said. They sat. Time went by the way it does in places where it has work. The mountain man watched the door. Noah traced the grain in the bench with his finger. When the clerk returned, he did not smile. "The sheriff's paper holds," he said. "So does yours." The man with the paper opened his mouth. "Enough," the clerk said, and that word carried here too. Outside, the air felt different. Eleanor did not smile. She did not thank anyone. She walked. On the way back, the snow changed to sleet. The path turned slick. The mountain man moved closer without touching. When Eleanor slipped, he steadied her by the elbow and let go. "Thank you," she said. "Any time," he said. They reached the cabin at dusk. The pot on the stove had cooled. Eleanor ladled it out and added their own bread. They ate and said little. After, Eleanor opened the book and wrote. She wrote the date and what had been said and by whom. She wrote the sheriff's name and the clerk's. She closed the book and set it down. "That's done," she said. The mountain man nodded. "For now." "I want to believe him." The knock came near midnight, soft this time, wrong in a different way. Eleanor took the lantern and opened the door. A woman stood there alone, shawl pulled tight. "I shouldn't," the woman said, "but I am." Eleanor waited. "My boy," the woman said. "He ran with them. He's hurt." The mountain man was at Eleanor's shoulder before she turned. "Where?" he asked. The woman pointed down the hill. "By the creek." They found the boy shivering and bleeding from a cut that would not close. The mountain man knelt and pressed cloth to skin. Eleanor held the lantern steady. Noah watched and did not speak. The boy cried once and then did not. The mountain man tied the bandage clean and firm. "Why?" the boy whispered. "Because it's cold," the mountain man said again, and it was still enough. They brought the boy to the cabin and warmed him. The woman sat by the fire and shook. Eleanor poured water and set bread within reach. No one spoke until the boy slept. At dawn, the woman stood. "I'll tell them," she said. "You don't have to," Eleanor said. "I want to," the woman said, and meant the wanting. The day opened like a door. People came not with pots but with eyes that met Eleanor's and did not slide away. The sheriff rode up the hill before noon, hat in hand. "It's settled," he said. "If there's trouble, it comes to me." "Thank you," Eleanor said. He looked at the mountain man. "You'll be watched." "Yes," the mountain man said. The sheriff nodded. "So will they." By evening, the snow eased. Eleanor set 3 plates again. The mountain man sat without being asked. Noah told the story of the courthouse with all the wrong parts made right. After supper, Eleanor took the coat from the chest. She folded it once and set it back. "Not yet," she said, and surprised herself with the gentleness of it. He nodded. "When you say." They sat by the fire and listened to it speak. Outside, the hill held the quiet it had earned. Near sleep, Eleanor spoke into the room. "If they come again." "They will," the mountain man said. She looked at him. "Then we won't be alone." He met her eyes and did not look away. "No." The lamp burned steady. The book lay closed. Winter waited and found less to take. Snow fell again, thin and patient, the kind that did not announce itself. It settled where it pleased and made everything look forgiven. Eleanor woke before the sound of it, before the stove ticked awake, before the day remembered what it owed. She lay still and listened to the room hold its shape. Noah slept with one knee tucked up, hair damp with warmth. The mountain man sat in the chair by the stove, coat on, hat hung on the peg. He had not gone to bed. He rarely did when the night felt unfinished. "You can lie down," Eleanor said. "I'm fine," he said. and did not move. She dressed and set water to boil. The kettle sang low. Outside, the hill wore quiet like a promise made too early. Eleanor opened the door and stepped onto the porch. The air bit clean. Down the path, the rope line stood straight. No wagon ruts cut across it. No boots pressed past. For the first time in weeks, the morning asked nothing. I don't trust that. By mid-morning, the town came back in its smaller ways. Not lanterns, not wagons. People walking with reasons that could pass as errands, Mrs. Larkin from the seamstress shop reached the rope line and stopped. I brought thread, she said, holding up a small bundle. Good kind. Thank you, Eleanor said. Leave it there. Mrs. Larkin hesitated, then set it down and looked at the door. It's been said, she began. Eleanor waited. That you keep accounts, Mrs. Larkin said. That you pay. I do, Eleanor said. Mrs. Larkin nodded and did not say what she had come to say. She turned back down the hill with lighter steps than she had climbed with. The mountain man split wood and stacked it without comment. Noah counted the pieces and corrected him once. The mountain man accepted the correction and did it again. Near noon, a shadow crossed the window and did not move on. Eleanor looked up. A man stood there she did not know, coat new, boots clean. He raised a hand and knocked once. She opened the door. I'm from the county, he said. Word reached us. It does, Eleanor said. He glanced past her and saw the mountain man without reacting. I'm here to look, he said. Then look, Eleanor said, and stepped aside. He did not cross the threshold. He took in the stove, the table, the floor swept clean. His eyes found the book on the shelf and stayed there. You've had trouble, he said. Yes, Eleanor said. You've settled it, he said. For now, Eleanor said. He nodded. That's how it goes. He left without writing anything down. The snow took his prints before they finished being made. At dusk, the bell rang for evening prayer. Eleanor lit the lamp and set the table. 2 plates this time. She paused, then set the third anyway. Noah watched her and smiled like a secret. They ate slow. The mountain man spoke of the weather higher up, of a drift that would take a horse to the chest if it broke wrong. Eleanor listened and pictured it without asking questions. Noah told a story about a bird he wanted to catch and let go. After, Eleanor opened the book and wrote, not because she had to, because she wanted the day to exist somewhere other than her head. That was when the shouting started. It came from below, rough and tangled, words tripping over themselves. Eleanor closed the book and took the lantern. The mountain man took his hat. Noah followed until Eleanor stopped him with a hand. Stay, she said. He stayed. Down the hill, 3 men argued by the fork. One held his arm wrong, blood dark on the sleeve. Another swayed, eyes unfocused. The third shouted and pointed toward the cabin. Eleanor lifted the lantern. What's happened? The man with the blood laughed and cried in the same breath. He slipped, he said. He says they pushed him. Who? Eleanor said. He pointed uphill. The mountain man stepped into the light and stopped. He did not move closer. No one pushed, he said. The third man snarled. You think you're better, he said. You think standing quiet makes you clean. The mountain woman said nothing. Eleanor stepped forward. If there's an injury, she said, we'll dress it. The man with the blood shook his head. "We're not asking," he said. "We're telling." They took a step together. Eleanor felt the line in the snow before she saw it, the place where the hill bent and the path narrowed. "No," she said. The man with the blood stumbled and fell to one knee. The mountain man moved without stepping forward, a hand out, steadying him before he hit the ice. He let go at once. "Don't," Eleanor said softly, not to him. Lanterns appeared again, quicker this time. The sheriff's voice cut through before the crowd did. "That's enough," he said. He took in the scene and made a choice without asking for opinions. "You," he said to the men, "down the hill, now." The man with the blood opened his mouth. "Now," the sheriff said. They went, dragging their anger with them like something broken. The hill swallowed the noise. The sheriff turned to Eleanor. "You all right?" "Yes," she said. He looked at the mountain man. "You didn't cross." "No," the mountain man said. The sheriff nodded once. "Good." He left without more. Inside, Eleanor set the lantern down and leaned against the wall. Her hands shook and stopped shaking. Noah ran to her and pressed his face to her coat. "They were loud," he said. "They were scared," she said. "Of what?" "Of losing," she said. "I am too." That night, the mountain man lay down on the pallet by the stove and slept. Eleanor woke once and listened to the sound of it, even and unafraid. She let herself sleep after that. Morning brought a letter. It lay on the step, folded neat, sealed right. Eleanor held it for a moment before opening it. Inside, a notice in plain words. The county would send a recorder to make copies of the book. The sheriff's protection stood. Any further interference would answer to the court. She handed it to the mountain man. He read it slow. "That's good," he said. "Yes," she said. "And dangerous," he said. "Yes," she said again. By afternoon, the recorder came, hat off, hands careful. He copied pages and asked questions Eleanor answered. He did not look at the mountain man unless spoken to. When he left, the book felt heavier and lighter both. At supper, Eleanor set 3 plates again and did not think about it. Noah ate and talked. The mountain man listened and smiled once, quick. After, Eleanor stood by the chest and took out the coat. She held it between her hands and felt the weight she had once refused. "I don't want this to look like what they say," she said. "It won't," he said, "if we keep it clean." She nodded. "If we keep choosing the hard thing." He looked at her. "You already do." She folded the coat and did not put it away. She set it on the chair by the stove. "Stay," she said, and this time it was not a question. He nodded. "I am." Outside, the hill quieted. Somewhere, far off, a bell rang, a late hour. Eleanor watched the flame and let the room be what it was becoming. And for the first time since winter set its teeth in, the line held. The thaw came wrong. It did not arrive with warmth, only with water where water should not be. Snow slid from the eaves in heavy sheets and turned the yard to a shallow mire. Eleanor watched it from the window and felt the day tilt. Thaw loosened what winter had nailed down. Thaw made room for mistakes. She set the kettle and checked the latch. It held. The book stayed under the floorboard. Noah ate his bread and hummed, off-key, the way he did when he sensed a storm had chosen another house. The mountain man stood at the table and sharpened a blade that did not need it. He paused, listened, then set it down. "They'll try a different way," he said. "I know," Eleanor said. By mid-morning the hill carried voices again, but softer now, wrapped in courtesy. A woman came alone with a basket held out like proof of good intent. Eleanor opened the door and did not step aside. "I brought eggs," the woman said, "and a message." Eleanor waited. "The town wants to help," the woman said, careful. "There's a way to make this easier." "Say it," Eleanor said. The woman glanced past her to the room, the stove, the coat on the chair. "If you'd move down," she said. "Take a room. Let things cool." "And my work," Eleanor said. "There's work," the woman said. "For women like you." Eleanor felt the line rise in her chest. "I already have work." The woman shifted. It would stop the talk. "It would start something worse," Eleanor said. The woman nodded as if she had expected the answer. She set the basket on the step and left. Eleanor carried it inside and set it by the door. She did not open it. "I won't trade quiet for a cage." The afternoon brought rain that needled the snow and sent the creek climbing. The mountain man went down to check the crossing and returned with his coat dark to the hem. "Another hour," he said, "maybe less." They worked fast. Eleanor lifted the book and tin and set them higher. She rolled the rug and propped the legs of the table on blocks. Noah carried what he could and took the job seriously. When the water reached the rope line, it moved like it had somewhere to be. Eleanor stood in the doorway and counted breaths. The mountain man stood behind her and did not touch her shoulder. "If it takes the floor," he said, "we'll move." "No," she said, "we'll hold." The creek surged and then slowed, like a thought reconsidered. By dusk it had spent itself, leaving a mess that did not look like danger until it was. Eleanor set the lamp early. She left the door open to let the damp go. That was when the man with the paper came back. Not with paper, not with gloves, but with money. He did not cross the rope line. He held the purse out in one hand, as if it were nothing more than weight. "You've been through enough," he said. "Take this and go quiet." Eleanor stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind her. "For what?" she said. "For the trouble," he said. "For the water, for the looks." "And the book," Eleanor said. His smile faltered. "That too." The mountain man stood in the doorway and said nothing. Eleanor did not touch the purse. "You can't buy clean," she said. He laughed, thin and quick. "Everyone has a price." She shook her head. "Not this." The purse hit the mud and split. Coins scattered and sank. The man swore and stepped back. "You'll regret this," he said. "I already know what regret costs," Eleanor said. He left without picking up what the creek did not keep. The night came wrong, too. Not with knocks, but with a sound like a branch breaking. Eleanor lifted the lamp and saw a figure by the shed, moving fast and low. The mountain man was already there, blocking without touching. "Stop," he said. The figure froze, then bolted. The mountain man ran and did not catch him by choice. He returned with breath steady. "They wanted the rope," he said. "To make it look like an accident," Eleanor said. "Yes." They did not sleep much. When dawn came, it brought a knock that did not wait. The sheriff stood on the step with his hat in his hands. "There's been a report," he said, "about money." I know, Eleanor said. He nodded. And about a fall. No one fell, Eleanor said. I know, he said again. He looked past her at the mountain man. County wants this finished. So do I, Eleanor said. He hesitated. They're calling for a hearing. Public. When? Eleanor said. Tonight. The bell rang at dusk, louder than it needed to be. The chapel filled. Eleanor stood at the table with the book open. The mountain man stood where the wall met the door. Noah sat on the front bench, feet not touching the floor. The man with the paper spoke of offers made and refused. He spoke of danger and decency. He spoke as if he were doing everyone a favor. Eleanor answered with dates and hours. She answered with seals and margins. She answered with the creek and the rope cut clean. The doctor spoke once about the seal and the rush. The sheriff spoke once about the purse and the mud. The mountain man did not speak. That was the hook they could not pull. When it ended, the bell rang again, and this time it meant something. The offer was named for what it was. The purse was entered into the record as interference. The rope cut became attempted harm. Outside, the night waited. On the hill, Eleanor walked slow. Noah pressed his hand into hers and did not let go. The mountain man followed, close enough now that the space between them felt like a choice they had already made. At the door, Eleanor stopped. She took the coat from the chair and held it a moment. I didn't take it then, she said, because it would have cost the wrong thing. He nodded. I won't take the money now, she said, for the same reason. He met her eyes. And the coat? She smiled, small. That's different. She laid it across his shoulders and smoothed the collar once. He did not move. He waited. Stay, she said, through the thaw. I will, he said. Inside, the lamp burned steady. Noah yawned and smiled. The book lay open to a clean page. Eleanor picked up the pen and paused. If they come again, she said, do we keep writing or do we leave? The mountain man did not answer at once. He looked at the hill, the rope line, the watermarks fading. Tell me, he said at last, what do you want the next page to say? The pen hovered. The door stood open. Eleanor did not answer right away. She set the pen down and closed the book, not hard, not gentle. Outside, water slipped from the eaves and tapped the ground like a clock that had learned patience. The mountain man waited. He always did. I wanted to say we stayed, she said, and that it mattered. He nodded once. Then we choose daylight again. The next morning broke with a sound like tearing cloth. Ice let go of the creek's edge and slid, slow and heavy. Eleanor wrapped her scarf and stepped out to look. The rope line sagged but held. The ground remembered where it had been walked. Down the hill, a wagon creaked. Not the town's. County paint, thin and honest. It stopped where the path narrowed and did not push past. A man climbed down with a satchel and a face that had learned how to listen. I'm the recorder, he said. I'll need the book. Eleanor brought it and watched his hands as he copied, careful not to smudge. He asked for dates. He asked for names. He did not ask for stories. When he finished, he tied the copies with twine and sealed them right. That'll travel, he said. It'll slow things. Slow is enough, Eleanor said. He tipped his hat and went back the way he came, his tracks neat as if he planned to return. By noon, the hill filled with the kind of quiet that comes before a crowd pretends it isn't one. People stood in twos and threes where errands might pass for reasons. Eleanor set bread to rise and did not look out the window. Noah traced letters on the table and asked how to spell stay. "Like this," she said, and wrote it once. The mountain man split wood and stopped to listen. He set the axe down and wiped his hands on his coat. "They're coming," he said. "They always do," Eleanor said. They came with voices this time, not fists. The woman with the careful words led them, hands folded like prayer. She did not step past the rope line. "We've talked," she said. "We want this settled." "It is," Eleanor said. "Not for us," the woman said. "People are uneasy." "Uneasy is not a charge," Eleanor said. The woman's mouth thinned. "Then we'll make one." A man behind her cleared his throat. "We're offering protection," he said. "A room in town, work, quiet." Eleanor shook her head. "I won't trade my son's name for your comfort." The woman sighed. "You're making it harder than it needs to be." Eleanor stepped forward until the rope brushed her boot. "Hard is honest," she said. The mountain man stood in the doorway and said nothing. His silence made room where words could not. They left without agreement. The hill swallowed their backs and returned the quiet. Noah looked up at Eleanor. "Did we do wrong?" he asked. "No," she said. "We did what we said." "I hope that's enough." Late afternoon brought the sound of hooves again, faster this time, uneven. A boy rode hard and pulled up short, breath torn. "They took him," he said, pointing downhill. "Said it was for his own good." "Who?" Eleanor said. The boy swallowed. "The man with the money." Noah stiffened. "Who did they take?" The boy's eyes slid away. "Meant to be you." The mountain man moved before Eleanor finished breathing. He took his hat and went. "Wait," Eleanor said and grabbed her coat. "We go together." They ran the hill in pieces, the way you do when time refuses to be whole. At the fork, the tracks split. Eleanor chose left. The mountain man chose right and circled back, cutting ahead. They found the wagon by the creek, wheels sunk where thaw had turned earth to pull. The man with the paper stood arguing with his driver. A figure lay bound in the bed, small and shaking. "Stop," Eleanor said. The man turned, startled. "You shouldn't be here." "Let him go," Eleanor said. "It's protective custody," he said, "until things cool." "Unbind him," the mountain man said, voice low. The driver reached for the reins. The mountain man stepped in and took them first, calm as a fence post. The wagon lurched and settled. The man with the paper drew back. "You can't," the sheriff's voice carried from the path. "I can." He rode in hard and dismounted without ceremony. He took in the scene and pointed. "Untie the boy." The man sputtered. "You don't have authority." "I do," the sheriff said. "County recorder does too. You crossed it." The ropes fell away. The boy scrambled free and ran to Eleanor, shaking. She wrapped him in her coat without thinking. The man with the paper backed up, mud at his heels. "This isn't over," he said. "It is for today," the sheriff said, "and for you soon." They went back up the hill slow, the way you do after running. Eleanor's legs trembled and held. The mountain man walked at her shoulder now and did not drop back. At the cabin, Eleanor set the boy by the stove and poured water. Noah hovered, fierce and quiet. "I was scared," the boy said. "So was I," Eleanor said, and meant it. That night, the bell rang twice. Not for prayer, for warning. The sheriff came up the hill with a paper folded clean. "He's charged," he said. "Interference, coercion, attempted removal." Eleanor took the paper and did not open it. She believed the weight of it. "They'll say you used him," the sheriff said, nodding at the mountain man. "They can," Eleanor said. "They're wrong." The sheriff nodded. "Tomorrow there'll be talk." "There always is," Eleanor said. When he left, the room breathed again. Eleanor sat at the table and opened the book. She wrote the date and what had been done and by whom. She wrote the word "stay again" once and underlined it. The mountain man watched the pen move. "You sure?" he said. "Yes," she said. Noah yawned and leaned against her knee. "Does this mean Christmas is coming?" he asked. "Yes," she said, and smiled despite herself. Outside, the night settled without testing the door. The fire spoke low. Eleanor stood and took the coat from the chair. She held it a moment longer than before. "This isn't payment," she said. "I know," he said. "It's a choice," she said. He nodded. She laid it over his shoulders, and this time did not smooth the collar. She let it be. Later, when the lamp burned down and the room found sleep, Eleanor lay awake and counted breaths that were not all hers. She listened to the mountain man's breathing and let it steady her own. Near dawn, she spoke into the dark. "If they try again, they won't take the boy," he said. "How do you know?" He was quiet a long moment. "Because tomorrow," he said, "I'll put my name where it costs." She turned on the pallet and faced him. "On what?" "On the line they can't cross," he said. "The one you've been drawing all winter." The light came thin and pale. Eleanor closed her eyes and saw the page that was coming. "Then write it," she said. He did not answer right away. Outside, the creek slipped free of its ice and ran clean. The door stayed closed. The next word waited. The morning held its breath. Frost lay thin over mud like a lie told carefully. Eleanor woke before the stove ticked awake and dressed without sound. Noah slept on his side, one hand fisted in the blanket. The mountain man sat at the table with the book open, the page blank, the pen resting where it could be taken or refused. He did not look up, he waited. Outside, a wagon creaked low on the road. County again, by the sound of it. Eleanor set water to boil and moved the lamp closer to the table. The light found the page and made it honest. "You said it would cost," she said. "Yes," he said. "What?" she asked. "My name," he said. "Where it sticks." She stood behind him and read the empty space as if it were already filled. "This is not rescue," she said. "It's work." "I know," he said. "And it's not charity," she said. "I know," he said again. She sat. The kettle sang and stopped. Outside, the wagon pulled up short and did not push past the rope line. A man climbed down with a satchel and waited like a thought that knew its time. Eleanor touched the book and felt the grain beneath her fingers. "We write plain," she said. He nodded. She spoke the words once before she wrote them. "Residence by labor, wages recorded, No claim of ownership. Term indefinite by consent. He listened as if the words were weather, and he was learning how to read it. When she finished, she slid the pen across the table. He took it and signed without flourish. He did not add a title. He did not hesitate. I am afraid. The knock came gentle and right. Eleanor opened the door and stepped aside. The recorder came in only as far as the table and set his satchel down. I hear there's an agreement, he said. There is, Eleanor said. He read. He asked 2 questions and waited for the answers to come clean. He watched the mountain man's hands while he answered, not his face. When he was done, he sealed the page where it belonged. This will stand, he said, if it's honored. It will be, Eleanor said. The recorder left with the same care he'd arrived. The wagon turned and went back the way it came, tracks neat as if the road mattered. By noon, the town found out. They came not in a rush but in turns, curiosity wearing different coats. Mrs. Larkin stopped first, eyes on the book. So it's written, she said. Yes, Eleanor said. And you're satisfied, Mrs. Larkin said, glancing at the mountain man. Yes, Eleanor said again. Mrs. Larkin nodded and surprised herself by smiling. She left thread on the step without asking. Others followed. A man brought nails. A woman brought yeast. No one crossed the threshold. The mountain man kept his distance and his work. Near afternoon, the sheriff rode up with his hat in his hand. He read the page and did not frown. That's clean, he said. It is, Eleanor said. You understand what it invites, he said. Yes, Eleanor said. The sheriff looked at the mountain man. You'll be watched. I know, he said. The sheriff nodded. Then we're agreed. After he left, the light shifted and the hill settled into its new shape. Eleanor worked at the table and wrote the day down. She wrote the signature. She did not underline it. Late in the day, the man with the money came up the path alone. He stopped at the rope line and did not cross. He held his hat like it might bite him. I hear you've written, he said. Yes, Eleanor said. You've made it harder, he said. I've made it clear, Eleanor said. He looked at the mountain man and then back at her. You'll regret this, he said, but there was no weight in it now. It fell and stayed fallen. I already know what regret costs, Eleanor said, and closed the door. The evening came soft. Eleanor set the table and did not count plates. Noah told a story about the recorder and the seal that sat right this time. The mountain man listened and corrected him once, gentle. After supper, Eleanor took the coat from the chair and held it out. Not as proof, she said. He did not reach. As what? As weather, she said. Something that stays. He took it then and put it on without ceremony. The room warmed and did not make a show of it. When night came, it came without testing. Eleanor slept deep and woke once to find the mountain man still at the table. The book closed, his hand resting on it like a promise kept by muscle memory. Go to bed, she said. In a minute, he said. She lay down and listened to the sound of it, even and steady. Morning brought the thaw's second thought. The creek rose again, but slower now, manageable. Eleanor and the mountain man moved the stones they had set and watched the water choose another way. They'll try something, he said. They always do, she said. This time it came dressed as kindness. A delegation from town arrived with the woman who spoke carefully. She held a basket and a folded notice. "We want peace," she said. "We have it," Eleanor said. The woman unfolded the notice and cleared her throat. "There are concerns," she said, "about the child." Noah stiffened. Eleanor did not. "What concerns?" Eleanor said. "About his welfare," the woman said. "A man living here. Appearances." Eleanor took the notice and read. It was written to sound official and was not. "This has no seal," Eleanor said. "It doesn't need one," the woman said. "It's a request." Eleanor folded it and handed it back. "Requests can be refused." The woman's eyes flicked to the mountain man. "You understand?" "I do," he said. "And I won't leave." "You can't," the woman began. "I can," he said. "It's written." Eleanor stepped forward. "If you have a charge," she said, "bring it with a seal." The woman hesitated. She looked past Eleanor to the room that had learned to hold. She nodded once and turned back down the hill. Noah exhaled like he'd been holding air for days. That afternoon, the doctor came with a parcel. "For Christmas," he said. He did not linger. Eleanor set the parcel aside. She opened the book and wrote again, not because it needed it, but because she did. Near dusk, a shout carried from the fork. A wagon had broken where the thaw had softened the road. A horse lay wrong. They went down together. Eleanor took the lantern. The mountain man took the rope. They worked without speaking. The horse rose. The wagon shifted. A boy cried once and stopped. "Why help?" the boy asked. "Because it's cold," the mountain man said, and the answer still held. They returned up the hill with mud on their boots and quiet in their bones. Eleanor set the lantern down and leaned against the door. The mountain man waited. "You put your name where it costs," she said. "Yes," he said. "And you'll keep doing that," she said. "Yes," he said again. "I choose this." That night, Eleanor took the book to the table and opened to the signed page. She touched the ink and felt its slight rise. "Tomorrow," she said, "we go to the county and make copies." He nodded. "Tomorrow." "And after," she said, "we live." He smiled, small. "After." Outside, the bell rang a late hour that belonged to no one. The creek found its banks again. The door stayed closed. The name stayed written. Snow did not return. It hovered, undecided, and left the hill to its damp shine. Eleanor rose early and wrapped the book in cloth. The mountain man checked the rope line and tightened one knot that had learned to loosen. Noah ate and watched them both, quiet as if he were keeping a promise he hadn't said out loud. They set out before the bell, the county road soft underfoot. The mountain man carried the book this time, held flat against his ribs as if it were a plank across a stream. Eleanor walked beside him, close enough now that the space between them had chosen a side. At the courthouse, the recorder made copies without asking why. He stamped where the seal should sit and pressed until the wax spread right. Eleanor watched the press lift clean. The mountain man watched her face. "That will hold," the recorder said. "Longer than winter." "Long enough," Eleanor said. By the time they turned back, the town had found its voice again. It met them at the fork, men with hands in pockets, women with folded arms, faces arranged into concern. The woman who spoke carefully stepped forward. She held nothing this time. We need to talk, she said. We are, Eleanor said. This is going too far, the woman said. County papers, seals, people don't like it. People don't have to, Eleanor said. They only have to be fair. A man behind the woman laughed. Fair's expensive. So is lying, Eleanor said. The mountain man stood where he could be seen and did not move. Noah stepped closer to Eleanor and held her coat. They followed the group down the hill, not because they were pushed, but because daylight is where lies show their seams. The chapel doors stood open. The bell did not ring. Inside, the air was cold enough to keep the truth awake. The sheriff waited by the stove, jaw set. The doctor stood near the table, hands folded. The man with the money had arrived first. He leaned against a pew and smiled like a man who had been promised something. Eleanor laid the book down and opened it to the page with the seal that sat right. This ends today, the man with the money said. One way or another. Today's fine, Eleanor said. He stepped forward. You've made yourself a problem, he said to her ma. And problems get solved. By daylight, the sheriff said. Not like this. The man spread his hands. We're asking questions about the child. Noah stiffened. Eleanor did not. What questions? She said. Whether he's safe, the man said. Whether a woman alone can manage. I'm not alone, Eleanor said, and the mountain man did not move. You're not his father, the man said to him. No, the mountain man said. I'm the work. The room shifted. The doctor cleared his throat. I've seen the boy, he said. He's well, better than he was. That's not the point, the man said. It is, the doctor said, if you're honest. The man's smile thinned. Honest is a word people use when they're losing. The sheriff lifted a hand. Enough. The man took a step back and another forward, deciding. Then let's put it to a vote, he said. Who thinks this is decent? Murmurs rose. The woman who spoke carefully looked at Eleanor and then at the mountain man. Eleanor closed the book. This isn't a vote, she said. It's a record. The man laughed. Records burn. The door banged open. A boy stumbled in, breath torn, mud on his knees. He looked straight at the sheriff. He tried to pay me, the boy said, pointing with a shaking hand. Told me to say I fell. Told me to say the rope snapped. The room went still. The sheriff's eyes found the man with the money and stayed there. Did you? He asked. The man's mouth opened and closed. It's not what it sounds like. It is, the boy said. He said I'd be warm. The mountain man stepped forward one pace and stopped. He did not speak. The sheriff turned to the doctor. You heard. I did, the doctor said. The sheriff nodded. Then we're done. The man backed away, palms out, fear breaking through the smile. You can't. I can, the sheriff said. And I am. Hands reached. The man twisted and failed. The chapel breathed again. Eleanor let the sound of it wash over her and did not move. Noah pressed his face to her side. She held him and did not hide. Outside, the bell rang once, late and wrong. People drifted away in pieces, their words smaller now, easier to carry. They walked up the hill with the light at their backs. The ground held. The creek kept its place. At the cabin, Eleanor set the book back beneath the floorboard and slid the tin into place. She sat and felt the day settle into her bones. I was scared, Noah said, and meant something older than the words. So was I, Eleanor said. The mountain man stood by the window and watched the hill empty itself. He turned once. They'll say you used me. They already did, Eleanor said. And you, he said. They'll say I stood, Eleanor said. That part is true. I chose this. Evening came quiet. Eleanor set the table and counted plates this time. 3. She did not change her mind. After supper, the doctor arrived with a small parcel wrapped in brown paper. For the boy, he said, and for you. Inside a tin star, rough cut, the kind that caught light and did not keep it. Eleanor thanked him and hung it by the door where it would see every coming and going. The mountain man rose. I should... No, Eleanor said, gentle and firm. Sit. He sat. Later, when Noah slept and the lamp burned low, Eleanor took the coat from the chair and folded it again, careful as always. You didn't speak, she said. I didn't need to, he said. You put your name where it costs, she said. Yes, he said. And today it cost, she said. Yes, he said again. She watched the flame steady itself and felt something in her chest ease, just enough to matter. Outside, the night held without testing. Somewhere a hymn drifted thin and then was gone. Eleanor stood and went to the door, opened it a hand's width, and let the air move. Tomorrow, she said, not turning, we plant where the thaw held. He stood with her, close enough now that it felt like a promise kept. Tomorrow, he said. The door closed. The star caught the light. The book stayed written. The line held. By the door, Eleanor said. So it remembers us. They hung it where the sun would find it. It caught the morning and gave it back in pieces. The mountain man stood a step behind and watched without touching anything. He had learned where lines mattered and where they moved on their own. They planted where the thaw had held. The ground was soft but honest, dark and smelling of last year. Eleanor pressed seeds into it with her thumb and covered them like she was tucking something in. Noah dropped them one by one and counted. The mountain man set stones along the edge to keep the creek from thinking it could come back. None of them spoke. The work had its own language. By noon, the hill carried a different sound, the creak of a wagon that did not stop. It climbed past the rope line and went on without looking. Eleanor wiped her hands on her skirt and watched it go. Letting things pass felt like strength now, not fear. The sheriff rode up in the afternoon with his hat off. He looked older and lighter at the same time. County closed the matter, he said. Charges stuck, papers filed. Thank you, Eleanor said. He nodded toward the stones. That'll help. Yes, Eleanor said. He looked at the mountain man. You staying? Yes, the mountain man said. The sheriff smiled once, quick. Then I'll stop by less. When he left, Eleanor sat on the step and watched the light change. Noah brought her water and felt important for it. That evening, the town came. Not as a group, not as a test. Mrs. Larkin arrived first with a spool of thread and a question about hems. A man followed with nails and an apology he did not speak aloud. A woman left yeast on the step and went without waiting. Eleanor took what was offered and did not keep accounts for kindness. The book stayed closed. At supper, Eleanor set 3 plates and did not look at them twice. Noah talked about seeds and stones and how the creek listened. The mountain man listened to Noah and smiled when the boy was not looking. After, Eleanor brought the book to the table and opened it to the last page she had written. She added 1 line and closed it. "What did you write?" the mountain man asked. "Today," she said, "and nothing else." He nodded. That was enough. Night came soft. The star by the door caught the lamplight and held it steady. Eleanor stood and took the coat from the chair. She had folded it so many times it knew her hands. "Once," she said, "I refused this." "I know," he said. "And once," she said, "I took it back wrong." He waited. "Now," she said, "I'm choosing it." He took it when she offered and put it on like it belonged there. She smoothed the collar once and let her hand rest a moment longer than before. He did not move away. "I'm not asking," she said. "I'm not offering," he said. They stood like that, quiet, until the room decided for them. Noah watched and said nothing. He had learned where words went missing and why. Later, when the lamp burned low, Eleanor lay awake and listened to the night not test the door. She counted breaths and lost count and found it again. When sleep came, it did not ask permission. Morning brought the county recorder again, this time with nothing to copy. He stood on the step and nodded. "Looks settled," he said. "Yes," Eleanor said. He smiled and went back down the hill. The day found its shape. Eleanor mended. The mountain man fixed a fence where it leaned. Noah learned how to tie a knot that did not lie. The creek kept to its bank. The ground warmed under the sun. By afternoon, a small pony appeared at the rope line, ears forward, eyes curious. A boy stood with it, hat too big, courage larger than both. "For him," the boy said, nodding at Noah. "Pa said." Noah looked at Eleanor with a question in his eyes. "Only if you're gentle," she said. He was. The pony learned the hill the way hills are learned, slow and patient. Laughter carried and did not echo wrong. Eleanor watched and felt something settle behind her ribs. "I am not afraid." At dusk, the bell rang once, right this time. Eleanor set the table and poured tea. The mountain man sat where he always had, not because he was told, but because it fit. After supper, Eleanor opened the door and let the air move. She stood there and watched the valley breathe. The mountain man came and stood with her, close enough to share the view. "They'll tell it different," he said. "They always do," she said. "What will you say?" he asked. "The truth," she said, "and then I'll live." He nodded. The night came gentle. The star by the door caught it and let it go. Noah slept with the window cracked and did not cough. The book stayed closed under the floorboard, not hidden now, just resting. Before bed, Eleanor took the coat from the hook and held it once more, feeling the weight that had changed hands without changing meaning. "This stays," she said. "Yes," he said. "And you," she said. He met her eyes and did not look away. "I do." She nodded and hung the coat where it could see the door. Spring moved in the way it does, quiet, steady, unannounced. The ground answered when pressed. The hill learned new names for old things, and in the cabin where winter had tried to collect, a family took shape without asking permission, held together by work done in daylight and a line no one crossed again. As the fire settled low and the hill grew quiet, what remained was not a grand victory, but something steadier. A table set without fear, a door that opened because it could, a child sleeping through the night without coughing, and two adults who learned that love does not arrive loudly in the West. It proves itself by staying. This was never a story about rescue. It was about dignity held through winter, about choosing what is right when it would be easier to bend, and about kindness that asks nothing in return. For those who have lived long enough to know that the hardest seasons shape us most, this kind of love feels familiar. It is built slowly, with work-worn hands, shared silence, and promises kept when no one is watching. If this story warmed you, even a little, I hope you'll stay with us. These quiet Western tales are written for evenings like this. When memories run deep and the heart still listens, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next story by the fire. And before you go, tell us in the comments, what city or town are you watching from tonight? Your words matter here.